Okay, recording started now.
Lovely. Hello everybody, and welcome to this presentation from Essex Business School at the University of Essex, Accounting More Than Just Numbers. And thank you very much for joining us today to watch this session, and of course thank you to yourselves for inviting us along again. I know we've attended events at your college a number of times over the past few years, and it's really nice to meet many of you when we do that. And obviously in this new virtual format for this year, I hope you find the session really helpful with your future planning. So my name is Neil and I'm the Marketing and Recruitment Officer at Essex Business School at the University of Essex. During today's session, I will provide you with an introduction, first of all, to the business school, and then introduce you specifically to the subject of accounting that we're focusing on today. So I'll tell you a bit about what accounting is, for those of you that might not know that already, and a bit further than that, what it means to study accounting at university. After that, we're going to watch a taster session together that's been pre-recorded by one of our lecturers in accounting, Dr. Danson Kimani. So we'll watch that session and he'll tell you a bit more about accounting in the context of our university and how we approach accounting, as well as giving you a sample of what teaching with us might be like. After that, I'll tell you a bit more about studying accounting and more general business degrees at the university, and then tell you your next steps if you'd like to consider a degree in accounting with us in the future. And finally, we'll make sure there's an opportunity for any questions you may have. Feel free to send questions in the chat throughout the event. Most likely we'll answer them all at the end, but feel free to send them in as you think of them, and then we'll address them when we get to the end of the session. So as a business school, we have a mission, and you can see it here. Our mission is to offer a transformative education and research excellence that has a positive impact on business and society. That's probably a bit of a mouthful, really, but it can be broken down into two main parts. The first part is this focus on excellence in research and excellence in teaching or education at the same time. Some universities may focus more on one of those areas than the other, but to us, we believe in trying to be excellent in both of them because they really do rely on each other. And I think that's particularly true in a business school. You don't necessarily want to be taught from a textbook that's 30, 40 years old about how business was done then. We want you to be taught business content that is relevant, up to date and current right now. And by ensuring that the people who are teaching you are also mostly carrying out research in the real world as well, perhaps working alongside different companies and industries on their research, that makes sure that they're up to date with what's happening now and they can bring that into the classroom with you. The second part of this is this idea of a positive impact on business and society, and this covers our whole real focus as a business school. We believe that businesses often have a lot of power, they often have a lot of money, and they often have a lot of influence. And we believe in trying to use some of that money, that power, and that influence to do things that are not just good for the business, but are also good for society. And I'll explain a bit more over the next few slides about how that affects the way that we teach you, and generally in the business school, and then with a focus on accounting. So normally we would be coming along to meet you in your college, and also we'd be inviting you to come onto campus for our school and college specific events, and we'd also be inviting you to things like our open days, and you'll have had similar from other universities as well. But obviously in lots of different ways this year has been very different, and we're meeting instead virtually today. So I just wanted to share with you a couple of images to give you a bit of a flavour of what our campuses are like, and then encourage you, if you want to find out more, to have a look on our website where you can view virtual campus tours, 360-degree images of, for example, inside buildings, inside the accommodation. You can even do a Google Maps tour of inside our business school building here. So check all of that out on our website before you're allowed to visit us again. The building you can see in this picture is the home of Essex Business School on our campus in Colchester, out on the east coast of the UK. And it's the UK's first zero carbon business school building. Essentially, it's a building designed to reflect our sustainable business principles that I've just mentioned, this idea of doing positive things on business and society. And it has a winter garden inside, so a living garden inside the building. You can see a grass roof on top of our lecture theatre on the left-hand side of the screen as well. And lots of fantastic open spaces for you to study and all the modern facilities you would expect. It's at this building on our Colchester campus where we teach all of our accounting, finance and banking related courses, and also a number of our management and marketing courses are here as well. We also have a campus in the heart of Southend-on-Sea, just moments from the beach, and the building you can see these students sat in front of is our forum building, which is a combined university building as well as public and academic library. It's one of a number of buildings that make up the university's Southend campus, and it's on this campus that we teach a number of our courses in international business, entrepreneurship and marketing. So I'll tell you a bit more now about our school, our approach to business, and then from there we'll lead on to our main topic today, which, as I mentioned, is looking at the subject of accounting. Now, Essex Business School is the largest department at the University of Essex, and it's also among the most internationally diverse. Students join us each year from all over the world, and each year our community gets a little bit bigger as well. Nevertheless, we work really hard to make sure that our students feel they are part of our community and not simply just a number. We want you to feel that you're part of this vibrant community, a friendly learning community, where you feel, as I say, more than just a number. We're also champions of responsible management, and this follows on from what I've said already about having this positive impact on society. And we look at sustainable business as well. And those themes affect everything that we do. When we teach leadership, for example, we aim to teach it with integrity. And what we mean by that, we're not looking at a pro forma approach to business where your sole aim as a leader would simply be to maximize the profit within an organization you're working for. We instead want you to become the type of business leader who looks beyond simply what's happening within the four walls of the business, looks at the wider community, considers its relationship with its staff, with its consumers, and with the community as well, and uses all of that to understand the broad social context within which a business operates. As a result of all that, at the end, you'll be considering people and planet as well as profit. And we hope, therefore, that you'll leave us with a commitment to doing business better. Ultimately, we want to help our students to achieve the very best degrees they can. And you'll do this by asking the right questions, by reflecting on what you're taught and what you see happening in the business world, and coming up with your own opinions, challenging what you see. And then you'll enter the world of work with exciting prospects where you can add great value to your organisations. In university terms, Essex Business School is quite a young school, but we're certainly not afraid of that. We think that young position means we can be more responsive to real life business issues and the real world beyond the boardroom. And we try to stay true to that ethos to this day. As you can see on the slide now, the university's founder, Sir Albert Sloman, envisaged a school where we would be concerned with real life and real problems. And hopefully, from what you've seen so far, that is exactly what you know we're doing at the business school. So how does that translate into teaching accounting? And first of all, what is accounting actually all about? Accountants essentially use a record system to keep track of all the transactions that take place within a business. And they use that system to judge the current performance of the business at any one point in time through either a profit or a loss figure. They then summarise all of that record keeping in financial statements, and those financial statements in almost all types of companies will be publicly available for people to look at. And it's the primary way that people external to a business can judge the health of a business. And that could be all sorts of different external bodies. It could be people that are thinking you're asking to lend money to you. It could be customers. It could be other clients. It could be governments. So all these different people that can look at the health of a business by taking a look at those financial statements. You can think of it as a language. So it's like a language that provides information about the financial position and the performance of an organisation. And that can be used by those people externally. But as you can see here, it also leads into internal decision making. And that's where management accounting comes in, because accountants are also responsible for providing regular updates on business performance internally and then helping management teams or boards to therefore make decisions. So helping the leaders to be able to make decisions using information that the accountants have provided. And that's what we call management accounting. Financial accounting and management accounting are the core components of studying accounting at any university. And as the name suggests, accounting is also about accountability. So this is ensuring a business can be held responsible for its actions and is behaving in a transparent way. And as a result, it's an absolutely vital component of a business. I just want to finish this particular slide by saying that I've given you a fairly basic introduction to what accounting is. But actually at Essex, we try to take a broader view than that one I've just mentioned in your study in accounting, particularly when you get into your second and third year of an accounting degree. We want to look instead at what accounting can enable us and enable organisations to do. So an example of what I mean by that is we consider how accounting links to a firm's impact on the environment, for example, how we can use accounting to measure the impact on communities. And I mentioned earlier this focus we have on considering wider societal impacts, and accounting can help us to do exactly that. At the start of the taster session that we'll watch together in a little while, Dr. Danson Kimani goes into more detail about those elements of accounting and gives you more of the Essex flavour of accounting. Whereas, as I say, what I've done so far is give you a more sort of dictionary type definition of accounting. So what happens when accounting all goes wrong? Well, a recent, or fairly recent now, a good example of the importance of accounting and accountants was the near collapse of the cafe chain, called cake cafe chain, Patisserie Valerie. This happened a couple of years ago now, and it was as a result, partially as a result of what had happened within their accounting processes. So the accounting team hadn't been making sure that individual branches of the cafe, because you'd find Patisserie Valerie in different high streets, in some branches of Debenham stores all over the country, and they weren't making sure that each individual branch was properly recording all of its transactions. The most problematic transactions seems to be the ones where people had purchased online gift vouchers and were redeeming those in stores, or where they were claiming some sort of discount using a voucher code. As a result of these particular transactions not being tracked properly at the till point, this meant that the organisation had inaccurate accounts. Now, like most major companies, Patisserie Valerie was required to use a firm of what we call auditors. So these are an external group of people who are experts in accounting and will check through the company's accounts before they're published. But in this case, those auditors also didn't do a thorough enough job in that they didn't spot these issues before the accounts were published over a period of quite a long time. That meant the true financial position of this company was not known correctly by either the investors, who had obviously invested their money in this company, or even by the staff who were working for that company. When all of this sort of unravelled and came out, and there were several news stories all about this, the accounting black hole, which is essentially missing money at Patisserie Valerie, was found to be £94 million. And that was more than double a previous estimate when this story first broke that people thought was bad enough. It just seemed to keep getting worse. And as a result of all of that and several other things impacting the business at the time, it therefore fell into administration. After it had fallen into administration, and therefore the administrators had taken a much closer look at all of the accounts within the organisation, they were found to have overstated their cash position by £30 million and had failed to disclose overdrafts of nearly £10 million. So these were huge variances in actually compared to the truth of their situation, compared to the situation that was listed in their accounts. And after all of this, the majority of the chain of cake cafes was sold to a private equity firm. And to give you an example of how serious this was seen to be at the time, the former chairman of Patisserie Valerie is said in an interview about this that he'd literally just considered emigrating. So he was just going to leave the country because it was just, this whole scandal was that embarrassing about what had been allowed to happen as a result simply of accounting practices not being done properly. So what careers could you go on to after studying a degree in accounting? Well, the first one on this list, I've put it right at the top because it's linked to what we've just talked about. You could be one of those auditors. So you could work for a company who provide auditing services to companies to check over their own accounts. So you could be the one going in for checking that this type of thing doesn't happen and making sure that they have recorded everything properly before those accounts are made public. You don't have to do things that seem maybe directly related to accounting. For example, you could also go into consultancy or policy making, as you can see here. So because accounting isn't simply looking at numbers within a business, it's considering all those different areas I mentioned earlier. It gives you a really good set of skills that could help you in a consultancy role or in a policy making role, and thinking about what policies you need to have in place within a country in order to ensure that firms are behaving in a responsible way and publishing all of their accounts accurately. The most obvious one people often think about when they talk about a career in accounting is to become a chartered accountant. And to be a chartered accountant, which is to get the overall qualification of an accountant, you have to complete some additional exams after you've done your undergraduate degree. So most commonly in the UK, to become a chartered accountant, you would take exams through the ACCA. And undergraduate degrees in accounting can help you towards those exams and mean that later on you'll be exempt from that. And I'll talk to you a bit more about that after we've watched the taster session, so how the undergraduate degree you've studied can help you sort of fast tracking you towards receiving that chartered accountancy status. Finally, you can work in all sorts of other financial services. So you can think of accounting as being a financial service, but there's many other financial services as well. And with an accounting degree, or perhaps one of our related degrees, for example, accounting and finance, and I'll show you a list of those later, you may go into lots of different general financial services roles as well. Before we go and watch that taster, I'd just like to introduce you to one of our former students who you can see on the screen now, whose name is Chin, and who studied BSc Accounting and Finance with us. He completed 2 different placements during his degree, one as a core placement in his programme and another as a summer internship, one at Santander Bank and another one at PricewaterhouseCoopers, known for short as PwC. PwC is a multinational professional services firm, so they, for example, provide accounting and auditing services for a huge number of companies. So he did his internship there, then secured a graduate scheme role with PwC, and is now working again for PwC in their audit division. So you can see how this kind of career path can develop from doing a degree in this area to having some work experience in this area and eventually going into it to work full time. And if you take a look on our website, you can read many more examples of some of our students and what they've gone on to next, and help you to understand this idea of actually what careers could these degrees lead you to. So I mentioned at the beginning that as part of the session today, we'd be watching a pre-recorded taster session together. This is delivered by one of our accounting lecturers, Dr. Danson Kimani. It's about 18 minutes long, so please do try to pay attention the whole way through. At the start, he'll give you an introduction to accounting at Essex. So he'll take what I've said earlier a bit further and put accounting more into the context of how we approach it at the University of Essex. And then he'll go on to give you a mini taster lecture. This should help you to get a flavour of what teaching at university can be like, because it often is fairly different to the way it may have been done at school and college. After that taster session, I'll come back and at that point, we will talk to you about your next steps if you want to consider an accounting degree, and then offer you at the end a chance for any questions you may have.
My name is Dr. Danson Kimani. I'm a lecturer in accounting at the Essex Business School, where I also do research on broader areas of accountability and corporate governance. So now, here at Essex Business School, we are a department that is renowned for conducting rigorous and critical research in accounting that focuses on many interesting areas and problems in the contemporary world that we live in, including accounting for modern slavery, sustainability accounting, and corporate governance and global development. Now, without further ado, I'll take you through the taster lecture for today. And what we'll look at is, one, what accounting is and what accounting is to us, or what accounting can do to us as a people. And I'll begin by defining what accounting is. So conventionally, accounting, or people think of accounting as a process of keeping financial records in terms of, say, how much sales a business has made, or the expenses or costs that a company or business has incurred over a given time period. However, accounting is broader than that, and accounting is a process that involves the recording, the measuring, and the communication of information about financial transactions, be it of a business, be it of an individual who could be running a business. So that whole process of noting down how much sales you make in a day, and then put a number to those revenues or those sales, and then communicating those figures or expressing them, be it to shareholders or to the tax authorities, is the process of accounting. Now, many decisions in our everyday lives, be it big or small decisions, are normally made using accounting numbers, where individuals compare the costs and the benefits of undertaking certain activities or business operations. So in that regard, accounting provides us with a way of seeing things, or it shows us what we should see. And that's why I've put a photo of a pair of binoculars to sort of illustrate the role of accounting. Accounting is the lens that we use to look at, various issues, as we shall see in the following slides. Now, it's not unusual that certain activities could be very financially sound, or could be the best decisions which can bring the most profits to a business. However, the alternative that provides the highest revenues to a business may not always or normally be the best decision. And again, you could have a company producing a lot of products and selling them and making huge profits. But on the other hand, that company could be guilty of, damaging the atmosphere, discharging effluents onto water sources, etc. And therefore, accounting is important and necessary to use in looking at not just the financial decisions or the financial outcomes of the various activities that are undertaken by businesses, but also what other costs would be occurring at the same time as those profits are made. And again, we shall look at some examples later on. Now, decision making, be it at an individual level, business level, and even government level, mainly involves choosing the best among available alternatives. For instance, a business could choose to produce 2 products, but because maybe they would have capacity constraints, meaning that they cannot produce the 2 products at the same time, the managers of that business may decide to go for the product that will earn them the highest revenue, or the highest volume of income. So in that case, accounting would be necessary in order to assess both the revenues, the expenses, and the eventual profit that product A would earn that business, and also compare the revenues and the expenses that product B would earn that business, and then a comparison would have to be carried out to see which product would be most profitable to undertake and produce. So that is the cost-benefit analysis, where you compare the costs of undertaking one alternative and the benefits that would ensue from it, and which is a key accounting principle. Now, that idea, very basic idea of comparing the financial effects of each alternative, the financial outcomes or the profits that product A, product B, product C would earn a company, means therefore that all costs and benefits associated with a decision must be measured and expressed in monetary terms. The figure at the bottom, be it the profit, is what the managers or the shareholders or the business owner would use to decide the most profitable product to undertake. I've got a simplified example here with me, where we have a case of a company with 2 branches, one in Colchester, which is the city that the main campus of the University of Essex is located, and Ipswich, which is a town nearer to Colchester. So this company has got 2 branches in Colchester and Ipswich. And if you look over here, we've got the Colchester branch, and we've got an income of 1 million per year, presumably. And we've got operating costs of £0.5 million, and that gives us £500,000 as profit for the year. Assuming that there's no other information, so the Colchester branch has got 100 employees. On the other hand, we've got the Ipswich branch. Again, as we can see, sorry, my apologies. As we can see from here, now, the Ipswich branch has got an annual income of £2 million and operating costs of 1.5 million, which leaves it with 0.5 or £500,000 in form of profit per year. And the Ipswich branch has got 500 employees. So now the question is, what can we see from these numbers or the table that we have in front of us? We've got 2 branches with different levels of income, one earning £1 million per year, the other one earning £2 million. If you had to look at income alone, you would assume that the Ipswich branch is the most, profitable, well, assuming that higher income would translate to higher profit. However, we find out later that that is not the case, because after accounting for the costs of running the business, be it the salaries paid to the employees working or the people working in these branches, the bills that they have to pay, electricity, water, utilities, and perhaps raw materials, that leaves them with the same level of profit, meaning therefore that the Colchester branch is more efficient than the Ipswich branch. Why? Because although they have a lower income than the Ipswich branch, their operating costs are lower and they have the same level of profit, which is, taken into account after considering that they have 100 employees, whereas the Ipswich branch has got 500. So a fifth of the employees literally are able to earn 0.5 million. So again, we have used the accounting lens or binoculars to be able to understand the efficiency of the various branches. Now, again, people may wonder, what's the purpose of accounting in our lives? And I've got some illustrations here of what accounting can do to us. We often read news headlines and without realizing that, there's a lot of accounting that has gone into, various aspects of our lives. I've got a headline here from BBC for 2015, which stated that the NHS had undergone £1 billion cuts. And what does that tell us? There is accounting, or rather accounting has been deployed by, be it the policymakers, the people who are allocating funding to NHS, etc. However, there's accounting behind that headline, because the very much act of cutting down the funding to NHS involves an accounting decision. Again, we often do see publications prepared by companies, such as the sustainability report here for Shell and the sustainability report for Toyota Motor Corporation. So what we are seeing in the current world that we live in, there is pressure, and we're seeing a lot of bodies emerging and pushing businesses to be accountable to more than just shareholders. And what does that mean? That businesses are now being required or asked or pressurized to ensure that they do not just make money for their shareholders at the cost of the environment. And there's therefore a need or increasing need for businesses to ensure that they operate in a sustainable world. They do not deplete the natural resources that we have. they do not damage the atmosphere by discharging greenhouse gas emissions, or a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah, and all this goes into, or rather, involves accounting. So it's accounting that lobbyists, for instance, would be looking at to see how much money companies are devoting to restoration of the environment, planting of trees. What's their budget for CSR, improving community livelihoods? So again, accounting helps us to understand and see how sustainably our businesses are operating. I mean, anything good has its negative side. Accounting can also make people act strangely, and I've got rather what I think is an apt illustration of, again, how accounting can be used negatively. And we've got three images on the screen. The first one is a shareholder who's gone to what appears to be managers or individuals running a business, and the shareholder is interested in finding out how their investment is doing. On the middle paragraph, we see the manager or the executive stating that they need to spend and finish the money that they've been allocated to blow their budget, because they fear that by spending less money than they had been allocated for the year, they could receive even lesser funding allocation for the next year. So in that case, we can see how sometimes accounting could influence people to act in some not very nice ways, so to say, or it can influence negative behavior. Right, so we do use accounting in our day-to-day lives without realizing it, and it's accounting that makes us act as calculable people. And each one of us that is watching has at one time deployed accounting in their thinking. For instance, a student trying to plan for their revision for an exam may try to be a bit strategic by trying to see which topic, for instance, could be in the exam this year. And they could do that maybe by comparing with the previous exam paper and see which questions were there, and then try to see which would likely be in the current year. For instance, students thinking about whether their attendance at classes will be recorded, and whether maybe the various activities that they undertake in their studies, such as group coursework, or preparing for presentations in class, or submitting an assignment, or revising for the exams, the very much consideration of whether that would affect their GPA is still an element of accounting. So accounting is everywhere in our lives, and it doesn't necessarily involve money. So we apply accounting in all the decisions that we undertake on a day-to-day basis. So further to the previous examples, or rather drawing on the previous examples and the discussion I've made, we see that one, from a business point of view, accounting records are relied on in keeping the score. Keeping the score is taking note or being able to keep a record of the various financial transactions or activities that have been undertaken by business. We've seen, for instance, the sustainability reports produced by Toyota Motor Corporation and all the Shell, Royal Dutch Shell sustainability report, which again will be some form of accounting records that lobbyists or government and other stakeholders would be looking at to see whether the company is operating sustainably. Accounting numbers also direct our attention to a perceived problem. If we have a case of a student who wants to improve their grade, they might draw up a plan and see maybe what topics they need to revise on or revise more on in order to be able to boost their grade if they're going to sit an exam. If a company wants to cut down on certain products, or dropping or closing some branches, again, they may want to deploy accounting to see which branch is more efficient and then close the branches that are less efficient in that regard, as we've seen before. So accounting information again, is used in decision-making process, because we need to study accounting, look at the accounting numbers, look at the revenues that a business brings in, look at the operating expenses for that business, and then look at the profits that remain at the end of the year or the period, and thereafter decide whether we need, say, to increase the number of employees in order to enhance or increase the efficiency of a business or shut it down. So accounting in that regard, it frames a particular event in a particular way. What does that mean? Accounting helps us to focus on areas that needs attention. If you want, let's say, to make the business more lean, more efficient, maybe in that case, accounting, or it would be useful to look at the profit reported by the business at the end of the year. If you want to look at how a business could increase revenues, in that case, you would focus at the top row, as we saw earlier on when we compared the Colchester branch and the Ipswich branch, and then see what you can do to increase the revenues of the business, be it hiring more marketing staff, be it maybe giving a discount to your customers so that they can buy more and therefore increase the revenues. So accounting helps to frame events or phenomena in a particular way. So thank you very much for listening to the TISTA lecture, and I hope you've enjoyed and found accounting interesting, as I always do. And please, if you've got any questions, please now hand over to the live chat where your questions will be addressed. Thank you very much. And
here we go. I'm back. So I hope you found that taster session from Dr. Danson Kamani useful. I'm now going to tell you, as I promised at the beginning, a bit more about studying accounting and business at business school, and then what your next step should be if you would now like to consider undertaking a degree in accounting. So first of all, the accounting courses we offer at Essex are listed on the slide here. So we have our main BSc course in accounting, so simply a 3-year course focusing on accounting with an option to add a placement year or a study abroad year as well if you want to. We also have 2 different combined degrees where you study 2 different subjects. So you can do a BSc Accounting and Finance or a BSc Accounting and Management, for example. When the word "and" is used in the degree title, this means we focus roughly half and half on those 2 areas. So your core and compulsory modules in accounting would be roughly the same in number as your core and compulsory modules in finance. You would typically then have some optional modules, and you may be able to pick between the 2, or also some wider business school subjects for those options as well. The same goes for management, which would be roughly half accounting and roughly half management. When we use the word "with" in the degree title, such as the bottom one you can see here, BSc with economics, then the first subject is the core subject that you mainly focus on, and the second one is more of a minor part of the degree. So for example, on BSc Accounting with Economics, it really is mostly an accounting program. However, each year you will have a small amount of economics content as well. So today's session has obviously focused mainly on accounting. However, some of you may be thinking about other subjects taught by business schools too. So here's a list of some of the other subjects that you'll find courses related to within business schools. So we have courses related to finance and banking, to management, to marketing, to international business and entrepreneurship as well. And in a few weeks' time, I'll be hosting another one of these sessions, which will be looking at entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is much more closely linked to general business and business management as well. So if you are thinking of undertaking one of those subjects, you may also like to come back and watch that session in a couple of weeks' time. So as you've heard so far, there's a lot of potential in accounting courses for studying in a reasonably applied and practical way, first of all. So you heard lots of different case studies. We considered things that have been in the news when I talked about patisserie Valerie, and Dr. Danson Kamali also gave you some examples of real topical accounting issues. And that is how we like to approach the accounting subject, as well as our other business courses as well. business as a whole really does make the world go round, and as therefore you'll often find that topics you're learning in the classroom could also be discussed in the media and in the news, for example, and that's one of the reasons it's a very interesting subject to do. Many courses in business schools, including accounting, as I mentioned earlier, also give you the opportunity to complete professional qualifications alongside your degree studies. So I mentioned earlier that if you want to do accounting in the UK, you will most likely need to be qualified as a chartered accountant through the ACCA, and that is a total of 14 exam papers that you can undertake. You need to undertake to do the whole qualification. But depending on what undergraduate degree you've taken, if it's an accredited program like our accounting programs are, you may be exempt from a number of these qualifications. So I think as a minimum on our accounting courses, you should be able to get at least 7 or 8 and possibly sometimes 9 exemptions from those 14 exams. So you could potentially do over half of that qualification whilst doing your degree. It doesn't mean anything different while you're doing your degree, but it means when you finish and you apply to do your ACCA qualification at some point in the future, you'll have less modules to do, and that will therefore save you both time and money in the future. Another reason that lots of people tell us they like doing business and accounting degrees is their relevance to lots of different professions and sectors. And as you saw earlier, I mentioned various different things you could go into with accounting. And if you do one of those combined degrees like accounting and management, you can probably go into even more different areas as well, because management picks up so many different topics. And as I say, we'll look at that when we talk about entrepreneurship in the future session. It also tends to be quite varied for the same reason, and that gives you an opportunity to study things that you find particularly interesting. I also think it's worth mentioning that you don't have to have studied business or accounting before in order to study business or accounting with us at the University of Essex. Our only subject-specific requirement is in relation to having the equivalent of a GCSE maths grade, and I'll talk to you about exactly what those are a bit later, but you don't need to have specifically done business or accounting before. The way you're taught at university may be quite different compared to what you may have been used to at school or college. The main thing you'll have initially for each module is a lecture in which you'll be introduced to a new topic. And that is where all students on the programme come together to listen to an academic giving them an overview of a topic. We try to record our lectures using service we call our Listen Again service, meaning that you can watch them back later to pick up on bits you missed as well. Usually a couple of days after a lecture, you'll then have another session, which we called on the slide here a class, but it may be called a seminar, a workshop, or a class. And that is in much, much smaller groups of students, and is where you have an opportunity to ask your questions, to discuss ideas, to share your own thoughts as well about the subject that you're studying. So that's the more interactive and engaging part of a university study. In terms of how we test and in terms of how we test and assess you, you may have a variety of different things. So firstly, you'll likely have quite a bit of coursework when you're at university. That could include essays, as you'll have probably been used to on some of your qualifications so far, and can also include things like problem sheets. You may have in-class tests throughout the module, and you may have final exams at the end of a term or a module as well. It's also likely that at some point throughout your degree, you may be doing group work and presentations as part of your assessment as well, helping to reflect how you would actually be working in the real business environment. So for example, being set a task to work on with a group of fellow students could be very similar to when you're working in the future and you're set a task to do with some fellow colleagues. So I mentioned that you don't need to have studied business or accounting before in order to undertake an accounting degree with us. And I want to show you on the screen now what our standard entry requirements are like. So although there aren't subject-specific requirements, we do obviously have some grades you need to achieve. So if you're taking A-levels, our typical entry requirement for our business school courses would be 3 Bs at A-level. And we'd also require a GCSE maths grade equivalent to a grade C, or that's a 4 under the new system. Alternatively, you could be taking IB, in which case we'd look for 30 to 32 points. And I believe quite a few of you will also be doing BTEC qualifications. On BTECs, again, we don't have subject-specific requirements, as in you don't need to have done a business BTEC, for example, but we may have some requirements that your BTECs, or at least some of the subjects you focus on, are on the more academic side. That said, the typical entry requirement tends to be a triple distinction on a triple award BTEC program, but you can ask our admissions team to confirm exactly what that is for the qualification you may be taking if you need to. So what should your next steps be if you'd like to do an accounting degree, either with us at Essex or somewhere else? Well, the first point I would say is that you should keep adding to your CV. So look for those opportunities to add things to your CV that make you a well-rounded person with an overall interest in that subject. It doesn't need to say that you've done some really specific massive projects in accounting before, because as I say, you don't actually need to have studied accounting before. However, you should show that you've generally done some different things, that you've been keen to get involved, that you're passionate, and that you're keen on what you might do in the future. And you can do all of that by adding various different extracurricular activities to your CV. The next and really key point is researching your options. And as I said at the beginning, we're slightly more limited this year compared to what previous students before you may have done in terms of actually physically visiting universities. So at the moment, for example, open days aren't happening. In the real world, they're happening virtually, but do make sure you attend those virtual events when you can. And hopefully at some point before you look to start your university journey with us, you'll be able to attend physical open days again as well. After applying, you may also be invited to applicant days or interview days by the different universities you've applied to. So I definitely recommend you attend those whenever you can as well to get more information. Of course, university websites are a great source of information, and also you may want to look on social media. So often when looking on social media, you'll be able to find lots more real content from current students or previous students about what it was like to study at that university, and I'd really recommend you have a look at that to see what being a student might be like. You'll need to write your personal statement when you do your UCAS application, and we have a guide on personal statements on our website, and I'm sure your college will help you with that as well. And then you'll need to apply for a UCAS. UCAS usually opens in September, which will be approximately 1 year before your degree would be due to start. And the main UCAS deadline, when that first application window closes, is then typically in January, and that will be January of the year when your degree is now due to start. So still overall, about 9 months before you start your degree is when that first deadline is. It is possible to apply to university later than that if courses are still open, or if they go into the clearing period in the summer, and you may have heard about both of those, but our first recommendation would always be to focus on that initial deadline first. By applying before the initial deadline, it means that every university you apply to has to give you fair consideration alongside all other students that have applied to that programme, and make sure you have the best opportunity not to miss out on a particular degree or a particular university you may be keen to go to. Finally, keep working hard. So everything you do in your final couple of years in school and college can help you towards your degree, and then ultimately help you in the future as well. So that's my final suggestion. Make sure you keep working hard and focus on what you can do to improve various things for the future. So now we'll open for any questions you might have. So I mentioned at the beginning that you're welcome to send any questions you have into the chat. So if anyone has any, please do send them in. I'm having a quick look now and I can't see any on there yet. So if anyone has any questions, please do send them in. So I have a question here asking, is it possible to have a workshop for our professional service accounting finance classes? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by the question. So do you mean you'd like another session like this but focusing on finance, or is this specific to something you're doing at college now that you'd like our help with? I can see you're typing a follow-up to that. If anyone else has any questions in the meantime, please still feel free to send them in.
Paraska, sorry, Sherwin or Paraska, do you have any questions for Neil about students over at CBA?
Where will be this recording available? I mean, I have year one students, at business, and I would like to replay them. This video if it's possible during my lesson. There are lots of events going on at the moment, and I think they are a bit overwhelmed. They don't know, which one to join. I know that I have a few students who are interested applying for accounting next year. So I think I would like to replay this video. If I can get the link, that would be great.
Yeah, I think it has been recorded today, so I think Jan will can help you with that afterwards.
Yeah, it's being recorded, Prosca. So I'll get Joe to send the link over to Sherwin and he can forward it to you.
Thank you, Jan.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to unmute this student. Let me just do that.
Hi, Neil.
Hello.
I've got a question. I'm one of the careers advisors at the college, and we responsible for making sure that students complete their UCAS applications correctly and then sending those off to UCAS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of the questions I get asked is when a student sends in an application to a university, and you're looking at the personal statement that they've written, how much emphasis do you place on any work experience they've done or not done?
So it varies by individual students, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that if you've done it, definitely put it on the personal statement. But if you haven't, don't worry that would then be a deal breaker. We generally look for, as I sort of briefly mentioned earlier, a student who we describe as being like well-rounded, and that can come from lots of different areas. So we would like to see things on a personal statement other than sort of just talking about the subject area. So things a bit more about them. It could be where their passion for accounting or the subject has come from, or it could be as you say, that they've done some specific work experience in relating that to what they're hoping to do in the future. It could be volunteer work, it could be a certain project they've been involved in during their previous studies. So it's definitely something I would say, if you've got that, put it down, but I wouldn't worry that by like not having some current work experience, that's going to stop you. Most people obviously who are applying to our undergraduate courses are doing so straight from their previous study, and therefore if they've had any work at all, it's most likely sort of Saturday jobs to bring a bit of money in, as opposed to like formal, work experience that may more directly contribute towards their future career. So it's something I'd put on there if I had it, but I wouldn't worry too much if I didn't. If you don't have that to put on there, it's just thinking of what alternative could you put there instead. And I think often it's easy when you read someone else's personal statement, I always find, and this is the same like as an adult in applying for jobs as well, like it's quite easy to read someone else and go, wow, they've done so much, and no, I haven't. And then actually, but it's actually a bit, it's the next step is to actually think about, okay, I might not have done what they've done, but what have I done that may be equally valuable and albeit completely different. And it's those sorts of things that I would like try and look for within yourself and within what you've done in the past to then write about on a personal statement. Okay,
so a working knowledge of the current budget by Rishi Sunak isn't essential.
Absolutely not. I should have tested people on that today during this session, but no, absolutely it's not. But then equally, if you have seen interesting things in a budget recently and want to talk about how you reacted to that, then why not? Because that shows that you're interested and engaged. So again, it's all those things. Nothing that I don't think is really essential to a personal statement. It's more thinking about, it's about you. It's jointly about the degree you want to study and showing you understand what that degree is. And it's also then about you as a person, and not just why you're the perfect person to study accounting. It could be why you would be a great person to have in the classroom, why you'd be an interesting person to take part in a class discussion, for example, and that could come from all sorts of different things you've done in the past.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
That's okay. Should we go back to the student with a question?
Hello. Yes, my name is Nebahat Karaca.
Hello.
My shortened name is Naz. Everyone knows me as Naz. Anyway,
okay.
I am work placement officer, and the question I ask that would there be any workshop opportunity for our accounting classes that we have professional service curriculum area, and they are doing finance and accounting, and that was the question I was asking. Would there be any opportunity for students in the future?
You mean
Yes.
a workshop that our academics would contribute to, but for your current students, you mean?
Yes.
So if you've got sort of a specific request for that, I'd encourage you to send me an email. I'm sure Jan can pass or Joanne can pass my email address on to you. So it's something that we do try and contribute to support our partner schools and colleges as much as we can. I know we've done quite a bit with yourselves before as well. So sometimes the ones that need our academics to be involved with can be a bit more difficult to arrange because they've got all their other current teaching responsibilities and that as well, but we're always keen to support when we can. So perhaps you could send me an email, sort of outline what you'd be hoping for, and we can take it from there, Naz.
That would be great, actually. Let me liaise with the curriculum area team leader, and we just send you an email, take it from there.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. I haven't seen any other questions come up in the chat, and we've made it through to 4 o'clock now, which was when this session was due to end. So I will just end by highlighting how you can get in touch with us if you'd like to. The email address you can see on the screen now comes through to our department, so ebs@essex.ac.uk. Feel free to contact us on that address at any time during your application process or after receiving an offer at any point before you start a degree, really, if there's something that you think we could help you with. I also mentioned earlier how helpful it can be to view social media pages of universities you're thinking of applying to. So that's why I've put those links on the screen now. You can see where you can find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on Instagram there as well. If you'd like to find out more about studying one of our accounting or other business courses with us, then you can sign up to receive more information on our website. So I've just sent a link into the chat box now that takes you through to a quick form on our website that just asks for your name, your email address, the subject you're interested in, and what year you'd be looking to start. So if you want to, feel free to complete that form, and then we'll send you some more information after this session. And we'll also let you know about upcoming things like Open Day. So as I mentioned, at the moment, those would all be virtual events. When we have got physical events taking place on our campuses as well, then anyone who's registered via that form will keep up to date, and we'll let you know when you can potentially come and visit us if you want to. I hope you've all found the session really useful today. I look forward to attending more sessions with your college in the future, and I wish you best of luck with whatever happens next. So whatever degree you decide to take or whatever other steps you decide to take in the future, I wish you all the best of luck with that.
Thank you, Neil. That was really interesting. And just to say to Piroska and Nebahat, I'll send links, or myself or Joe will send links over to Sherwin, and he'll forward them on to you. Is that all right by you, Sherwin?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's my job. Thank you.
I'm just going to switch off the recording now.